Well, I grew up in the non-denominational Christian church, which is kind of liberal by the standards of Christianity when I left, but they were still very much biblical literalists. The Bible's the inerrant word of God, etc., etc. My parents took me there regularly when I was young, and as I got older into the latter years of high school, I began to get more religiously concerned. And when I was a senior, I joined the Church of Christ, which is about as near a cult as mainstream Christianity gets. And while I was in the Church of Christ, I actually developed aspirations of becoming a preacher and actively worked towards that and preached for a while.
How old were you when you left the church?
When I finally left the church, I was 22. I had turned 22 and was having some doubts at that point in time, but I decided to use my summer preaching internship working as a junior preacher to try to grasp back onto that faith, because I felt it so strongly for so long. I thought, surely this is just a moment of tribulation or doubt, and if I just hang tight, I'll be able to get back all my zeal for God. So I resisted, and I went ahead and preached, and I did get back my faith. I got it back by brute force. I forced myself to believe it all again while I was preaching. And I thought that it was initially successful, but by the end of that summer, I had come to find the teachings of Christianity and religions in general as intellectually unfulfilling, untenable, and immoral. When I think back to my time as a Christian, and not just as a Christian, as a very fundamentalist, Bible-belt conservative Christian, I remember a wellspring of malicious feelings towards other people. Oh sure, it was doctored up with the idea that, well, we love the sinner, we just hate the sin. But in all reality, all it was structural violence built around discriminating against everyone who didn't think and act exactly like us. And for all my talk of godly love and Christly concern for others, it was hollow. I had myself talked into believing a big talk about loving everyone, if only for the grace of God. But in reality, the entire thing was illusory. We really didn't care that much about other human beings. Everyone we saw wasn't just another human being to be talked to, it was a potential convert, and that's how we looked at them. And we thought of all non-Christians as immoral, debased sinners, worthy of pity, contempt, and outright scorn if they weren't going to convert. But when I finally did start questioning Christianity and start down that path that led me to be an open atheist, one of the first things I did was realize that you could very easily be moral without God. That in fact morality made more sense and was more moral without God. And I realized at that point, it's okay to be an atheist. You don't need to be afraid. And the people who backlash against you, the people who gnash their teeth and show their fangs whenever you mention the word atheist, are merely people that are afraid that their underpinnings for how they look at the world are threatened by you waking up from a dream. And so it's perfectly all right to embrace who you are, to admit that you find the ideas put forward in the Bible or in other superstitions that dominate society incredulous, that you can see the beauty in life and the worth in every person and the worth in being moral towards every person without having to have an external supernatural threat held over you to provide you with the impetus to do. If I could leave you with advice, as you're now wondering whether or not you should come out and tell your parents or your friends or your youth pastor or the people you've grown up with about your realization that what you've shared in common with them for so long is in fact illusory and was never there to begin with. If I could share with you one bit of advice, it would be this. Don't think of yourself as they think of you. Don't let them pigeonhole you into being that silent, lone minority, the singular voice crying out in the wilderness, the person who's just the complainer, the whiner, who nags about the term under God being in our pledge or on our money. Don't let them tell you that that's all that you are, because that's not. You're so very much more. You are your own beautiful person with a wonderful, glorious mind, and you're using it well right now, having these thoughts. Don't think of yourself as alone. You do have resources. There are online groups. Kansas City Atheist is only one of them. There's the Secular Student Alliance, the American Humanist Association, American Atheists. There are so many out there that are waiting to welcome you with arms that are just as caring and even more genuinely loving than all those arms that beckoned you come at Sunday morning services. You are not anything less than the people around you simply because you have abandoned a mythos, an ancient dogma, an outmoded creed. You can be so much more than they tell you. Don't for 1 second doubt that. Seek out fellow atheists because we're here and we're waiting for you, and we can't wait to know your name. You, me, the people here at Skepticon 4, the people around the nation who couldn't make it here today, the people who, like you, are worrying anxiously what their parents or their friends or their loved ones will say when they finally muster up the courage to tell them that they disagree. We are atheism.